Welcome to today's talk session. My name is Deidre Moss, and I'm the host of Can We Talk? I'm an educator, motivator, and a talk connoisseur. As we observe the month of May, which is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month, we've decided to focus on this topic for today. So we've invited our guest, Loiude le Roux, to help us discuss this topic. So at this time, I will pass the virtual mic to our guest so that she can introduce herself. And I hope I did not butcher her name, but we get started.
Thank you for having me here. No, it's Loiude le Roux. I am from South Africa. I am a mom of three boys, three very busy boys. I am actually in corporate. I work a full-day job in corporate in recruitment. But on the sideline, I am raising my sons, being a wife, being a mom, and also trying to just get people more aware of mental health. And I don't think, I know May is Mental Health Month, but I think it deserves more than just a month. So it's so important that we talk about this. So yes, that's me. Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you so much. Before we begin, if you just joined us, like and share this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel using the links on our page. We need your support to continue these talks. Also, if there's something that you want us to talk about, you think we should be talking about it, feel free to let us know. We want to hear from you. With that, let's get into our talk. Can we talk mental health awareness? And so with that, we'll get started. As we look at mental health, what does mental health mean to you?
For starters, it's something that's crucial. It means, to me, it means anything that challenges you more than what it is supposed to challenge you. If your daily activities and tasks become difficult because of that mental health issue or barrier that you have, that's what mental health is. And I think people so often, because it's not you can't see it, it's not visual or it's not visible, they dismiss it. And that's the problem we have with mental health, because just like our body sometimes need medication, our brain also needs medication. Yes, mental health is everything that influences our cognitive behavior, our social well-being, the things that just makes it a bit more tough for us.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and just reminding us, reiterating that sometimes, sorry, it's not something that can be physical. And, sometimes we need to be reminded that there are things going on that we may not see. We may not see the physical manifestation of, certain things, but there are things going on underneath that we don't always see, physically. So I want to thank you for mentioning that. And I also wanted to mention that this is an international collaboration. And so for this platform, it's so very important to promote inclusivity. And so I just want to thank you for, being with us here today. And so I just want to reiterate, you're from South Africa. And I just want to thank you again for being open to being a part of this session. And even though we're from different countries, it's a slight difference in culture. Our issues are still the same. So I want to thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. And for those joining and listening in, feel free to share the link. I also shared the link with you as well. So feel free to share the link and add your comments, because I'm going to be looking for your comments. So feel free to comment and let us know. Let us know your thoughts, on this very important topic. So we're going to move on to our next question, or our next point, as it pertains to Mental Health Awareness Month. And you mentioned something that's very important, that, May is observed as Mental Health Awareness Month, but we need more time, yeah. So the focus, even though this month is dedicated toward, that topic, yeah, we definitely need to put more focus on mental health. It's so very important. Yes. And so why is mental health awareness important?
something I want to say as well, just add as well, what you mentioned is that it's not always physical, but it does manifest physically, because you can battle to lose weight because of your mental health disorder, and explaining that to someone might be difficult, because they might think, no, you just don't have control over what you eat, or you might battle to sleep. That's a manifestation of a mental health disorder, and I can go on and on. So yes, that's the issue we have, I think, is that it's not physical, but it does manifest physical, because eventually your body shows what's going on in your mind, and it's going to come out. And to answer your question, where even to start? Without awareness, we can't have acceptance. And without acknowledging mental health, we can't accept it. And we can't mourn the high suicide rate and cry if somebody commits suicide if we deny mental health. We need to first acknowledge we've got an issue and we've got a crisis, and mental health is a real thing, and then deal with that. And I think that's why awareness is so important, because especially amongst parents, because parents lately, or I don't know, maybe I just recently discovered this with my own son, who's 10 years old and who was diagnosed with depression at the age of 8. Parents are very quick to just say it's a phase, and not realizing, no, this is not a phase. Your child really needs help. And I think that's where my mission for awareness really comes in, is with the parents and focusing on children and mental health. It's a real thing. So yes, without awareness, we can't have acceptance.
Thank you for sharing that, and sharing your experience with your son. And sometimes we tend to, sometimes not take it seriously, especially when as it pertains to a child. We think that, this is just a moment, they're gonna get over it, But as you would have mentioned, it's so very important to get them help and get help, catch it early. And so I want to thank Bianca for listening in. Bianca Maki. Thank you so much. Makai.
That's my best friend.
Thank you, Bianca, for joining us today. And so we'll get to our other question. And again, I just want to thank you for mentioning the little ones as well, and us being mindful of the situations that they're going through. We tend to think that, oh, they're the kids, they don't have much going on, but
yes,
we do have to,
yes. Or always just think, oh, it's just a tantrum, or oh, this child is so moody. It's not, because this is where the physical manifestation part comes in. Children don't have the words and the vocabulary and the emotional intelligence to say, I'm feeling heavy, I am not coping, I don't know what I feel. So it will manifest in anger or irritation or being rude, but you need to you need to know, where is that coming from? Exactly. Why is my child acting this way?
Thank you for sharing that. That's important, because like you said, we tend to think that it's just a tantrum, they're just being extra, they're being rude. But can we really get to the core, the root of what's going on and why are they acting this way? So that's very important. And so we talk about those kids, so we want to talk about the mothers and motherhood. And how do you think motherhood and mental health is interconnected? Why should moms take better care of their mental health?
There's a saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And that is so applicable, even more if you are a mother. It's already so hard being a person with feelings, emotions, conflict that we have to deal with at work, in our personal lives, everything. But it's more challenging being a mother, in my case, of 3 other human beings and their well-being. And I cannot look after them the way that I should or that they need if I'm not okay mentally. It's just, I need to be sure that I'm fine. It's, if you are in an airplane, they always say, put your mask on first before you help the children. And there's a reason for that, because you cannot help the child if you can't breathe. And that's the same with mental health as well. I need to make sure that I'm okay, that I'm stable, that I'm coping before I can be the best mother that they need. So yes, there's a big gap. I think moms sometimes think, no, I must be in control. I'm a mother. I can't be having mental illnesses. I can't deal with having depression. But I think a lot of moms battle with this, and they they shy away from talking about it because of the judgment that will come with it. But I think it's important just to say that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If there's nothing in you, you cannot give to your children who need so much from you.
Thank you. That's very important that you raised that point, in that, you know, sometimes as a mom, you're expected to hold everything together. And so
Yes.
when you're
Yes.
falling apart, you're not expected to fall apart. So, and you mentioned that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you have to be a whole, complete person in order for you to be able to take care of those other lives that you're responsible for. And so definitely those are important points that you raise. So thank you so much for sharing that. So we'll move on. I just want to get to your comment with, Bianca, thank you for bringing up awareness and raising the banner for mental health. Thank you so much, Bianca, for sharing that. And so we get to our next point as it pertains to in the motherhood range as well. And you mentioned your son, and I know that, well, I want to get to your views on parenting and a child on the autism spectrum and its impact on you as a parent.
That's probably also a whole discussion on its own, because the spectrum is so wide. And that's the two main things that I focus on is mental health and autism, because there's such a misconception about that as well. But there are so many challenges and barriers that come with raising a child on the spectrum, and especially if they are high functioning, because you expect things of them that they sometimes cannot give. They just don't have the emotional capacity. It's not in their ability to give that. And something that works for me with my son, he is 6 years old now. He's turning 7 next month. He's my middle child, my second born. For me, in this case, knowledge is power. I try to understand as much as possible about autism, and I try to read him better to avoid having him having a sensory meltdown or having him a sensory overload. So yes, I also try not to take things personal, because with the autism spectrum comes a sort of emotional detachment. So they are very quick to respond in a way that it's hurtful. They say things that they other parents might frown upon. I frown upon it even, but it's just who they are. And I have learned over the past 2 years that it's not personal. This is just part of it doesn't define him. Even though he says very hurtful things in the moment, he doesn't mean it. And I think that's also an important place to get to as a parent of a child on the spectrum, not take it personal. It's not you. It's just part of the spectrum.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and hearing from a parent who, you know, is raising a child on the autism spectrum. And you mentioned that it is broad. And so bringing awareness to that, as April is also observed as Autism Awareness. So thank you
Yes.
for mentioning that, and its impact. And you can't take it personal.
No, it's never personal with autism.
Yeah.
And it sounds so mundane if I just say it, don't take it personal. It sounds so cliche, and it doesn't sound like something that carries much weight. But once you get to that stage as a parent, I felt more in control the day I stopped taking it personal. I battled to be in control when I was always emotionally hurt by what he said or how he acted. And the day I stopped being offended and, oh, I'm a horrible mother, maybe he's right, maybe I am a terrible person, the day I made that switch and I realized, stop, I'm doing okay. This is just part of the spectrum, the not so good side, the not so nice side. And it's spectrum related, it's not you related. So yes, I think that's important.
Thank you for mentioning that. We're going to come to raising awareness, but I just wanted to ask, if it's okay, I just want to ask you, because you mentioned that your focus is on mental health awareness and autism awareness, and just wanting to reflect on why it is so important for you to raise awareness about these two issues.
Probably because it's so personal to me, and because I am suffer from depression and anxiety, and again, it's something you cannot see, but behind the scenes, it does happen, and I have to deal with it and work through it. And now I have a son who battles with it, and it's sad to see him on his low days, because like you said earlier, you would think, oh, but we love you and you're such a good child and you have a house, you have a family, why would you have depression? And that's where the penny drops, that this is not something that you can choose, it's a chemical imbalance. So I think because it's so personal to me, and because I know of children who suffer as well, whose parents are not acknowledging it, and I can see how they battle. And the autism is also personal because of my middle child. And we have had incidents where we were in shops and malls and he would have a meltdown and people would stare and people would comment, people would say, he just needs a good hiding, what a naughty child. And over the past 2 years, I realized how people are not aware that this is autism. And I think it's better to not say anything if you're in a mall and you see something like that, because you don't know the situation. And I mean, the spectrum is broad, like we said, and some children really, really battle way more than my child. And I stood in a mall once, in a shopping mall, doing my shopping, and there was a child who had a total meltdown, and you could see it was sensory overload. And I heard the dad speak to the child, and I knew from the things that he said, this child has autism because of the way he spoke. And two other women were standing next to me, and they turned to each other and they said, this was my child, I would smack him and I would just not bring him to the store. I can't believe the dad is allowing it. And that day I felt, guys, we have a problem. We don't know about this. You don't know about this. This is so many people's reality, and we need to make sure that everybody is aware so that they can accept. Again, the awareness and acceptance thing. So yes, that's why those two things really hit home for me.
Thank you for mentioning that. And you talk about, you mentioned something that stood out to me. You mentioned that people would look at your son and they would say, he has this, he has a home, he has all of these. Why is he battling these things? And it's similar, with other persons as well. You look at them and they have all of these things. You're looking on the outside, but you're not really considering, what's going on internally. And so thank you for mentioning that point, because that is so reflective of so many other persons who may be facing a similar situation. And if we look at the outside, we would say there's no reason for this person to be facing this issue or having these things going on, but we don't know, the internal workings of what people may be dealing with. So I want to thank you for pointing that out. That's so very, very important. I don't know if you want to add anything.
The perfect example is if you look at all the celebrities who commit suicide. You would think, what? You are a celebrity, you're a film star, you are so rich, you have 3 houses, you have an island, you own, Robin Williams. No one saw that coming because he was a comedian, he made people laugh. So what could he possibly have battled with? But the fact that he committed suicide just proved that there was a battle inside his mind that no one was aware of. So yes, I totally agree that we sometimes look at the outside and we say, no, they can't be depressed. Look at their house, look at their, and it's not about that. When you have, depression isn't specific, it doesn't choose its audience, it just latches on to whoever. It's not picky. And yes, I agree with you. It's something that we need to take in consideration and speak about as well. So yes.
Thank you. You talk a little bit about suicide, and so I wanted to mention, I don't know if you want to talk about the experience that you had with your neighbor. I don't know if you want to speak about that.
Yes. When I was 18, I went to do missionary work in one of the most dangerous places in South Africa, Johannesburg, Hillbrow. And I stayed in a flat, and the flat right opposite me had a lady in, and we would just greet each other every morning as we walked out of the building. It would be a simple, hi, how are you? Good, good. It didn't mean anything, but it became a habit, you know, and you're being polite to the people that you see around you. And one morning I woke up and I opened my curtains, and she was hanging. She hung herself and she committed suicide. And I remember just thinking, how did no one know? How did I greet this lady every single day? I walked with her for a block. I couldn't tell that she was sad. And I just wondered, the people who lived with her, how did they not see this? How was there never a sign that this lady needed help, or that she was so sad that she felt that was the solution? So yes, that really got to me when I was 18. And there was something that bothered me, because I just felt, how did no one know? How did no one know? And that's also something that's mental health related, is because people hide it. People do hide it because they still, we're going to get to that, but the stigma and everything, and people are not as open about it as they should be. Yeah? And I think if we are more open about it, these things would happen less. People would feel more comfortable reaching out.
Yeah, because I mean, you mentioned that you interacted with this person and you couldn't tell, you know. Yeah, I know I knew someone, I knew a coworker that committed suicide as well. And I definitely couldn't tell, because they were always happy. And but you know, I couldn't tell. And so when they did it, it was very, you know, it was very like, people were questioning, like, why did they do this? Because from all appearances, they were okay. So it's a very, very interesting thing. Mental health is a very, very interesting thing. And so we want to get to awareness. And I know that you mentioned your main focuses is on mental health awareness and autism awareness.
Yes,
What do
yes.
you think we can do to raise more awareness about mental health and mental health issues?
Speak about it. Speak about it. Speak about it. Speak about it. I honestly think at this stage we have the platforms for it. I mean, here we are in 2 different countries, and we're using an international platform. We have access to everything we need to reach people globally and not shy away from the issue anymore. And the more we speak about it, the more it's like COVID. When COVID started, people were, and now, because it was everywhere, it's not a thing anymore. In the sense of so what I'm trying to say is, if we speak about mental health more, people are going to be more open, and people are going to feel less ashamed about having a mental health issue. It would be easier for them to say, oh, I also battle with depression, instead of saying, oh, what is going to judge me? So yes, I think speak about it. Speak about it.
Thank you. Yes, definitely, and that's what we're here for. I'm glad that your platform is about raising awareness of these issues. We have to talk about it, and that's why it's so very important. And people always make it a point to say, "Oh, you're just talking." Talking leads to action, and so
absolutely,
regardless of what people say, we're just talking about it. It's going to bring people. It's going to bring awareness, and it's going to bring people forward to talk about these issues and feel comfortable coming forward and sharing. And so that's going to lead us to get somewhere, rather than sweeping these things under a rug, covering it up, hiding it, and keeping it a secret. No, we need to talk about it. And so I just want to get to the comments. Thank you so much, Amelia. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you.
That's my mom.
Oh, hi, Mom. Thank you so much. Elaine Thompson is saying, is there anything that helps? For example, I think she's talking about the autism. I don't know if you can answer this. She's saying, I've heard parents say CBD helps. Are there any natural alternatives or protocols that make it less challenging?
We haven't really tried that route yet, for no apparent reason. I just have always felt that therapy is therapy and medication to me goes hand in hand. I know a lot of people do try the natural, like she wants the CBD oil. I can't really comment on that. I haven't used that yet. And for us, we have had great results with the sensory therapy, the Lego therapy, the horse riding therapy, those kind of things. We see a change since he started with those things.
Thank you so much for answering that question. And just want to mention, talk about the stigma, stigma attached. We don't want to talk about some of these things that, we may be battling because there's a stigma attached. You go somewhere and say, right now, I'm dealing with a mental issue. Someone may look at you and say, so is there a stigma attached? Do you think there's a stigma attached to mental health and mental health issues? Is there still, we're living in this age now, we're able to talk about things. So is there still a stigma attached, and what can we do to remove that stigma?
I think we're definitely moving away from it, and we are doing much better than we did 10 years ago because of the awareness that people have created. So that's the good news. And I think a lot of people are changing their way of thinking about it, but we're still not there yet. I know that people are still scared in their workplace to mention it because I have a job. If I mention it, I might lose my job. You shouldn't be afraid to lose your job if you have a mental health issue like depression or anxiety. That shouldn't be your fear. So I do think we're stepping away from the stigma, but I don't think we are there yet where people want to disclose as openly as they should. I'm not saying you should step into a meeting or an interview and immediately say it, because that's the other thing. It doesn't define you. It's a chemical defect, not a you. You are still you. So it's not something that has to be announced or be put on a CV or something, but I don't think people should be ashamed of it. That's important. So the stigma is falling away, but we're not there 100% yet. And I think, again, raising awareness and getting to the point of total acceptance and saying, hey, it's okay. This doesn't define your skills, your abilities. That this is not you. This doesn't make who you are or what you value or contribute to wherever.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm mentioning, it's not you. It may be a condition that you're battling, but that's just one aspect. It's not the whole person. And so as we wind down and bring our session to a close, is there any additional comments that you would like to add?
It's something I actually read in this week, was that 280 million people suffer from a mental health disorder. And these are just the people who are diagnosed. And that should actually prove to you how common it is, how it's not something to be ashamed of. And the mental health illness thing is also, it's broad. I mean, that could be anything from a mood disorder, a developmental disorder like autism, depression, bipolar. All of those things fall under this. And there was just something interesting that I read. And I want to really encourage people. Something that you said earlier was, people think talking about it doesn't change anything, but it does. The same as, and it sounds so, it sounds silly saying it, but the same as sharing posts on Facebook. It helps. People like posts, but they don't understand you reading it because it's meaning something to you. It's not helping someone else, but you sharing it might help someone else. I have came across a million of posts that were shared, which I read, and I would feel, oh, I'm so glad this person shared this because this meant something to me. And that's what talking about mental health is also doing. It might mean nothing to you or to me or to the people listening, but if they share it, it might reach that one person who this was meant to, and they can say, oh, you know what, it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't define me. I'm okay. So yes, I just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for mentioning that. And so as we close, Would you like to talk about your page or your platform?
I started a Facebook page when we were still staying in UAE, just to stay in touch with everyone in South Africa and tell them about our experiences. But when we came back to South Africa and my son was diagnosed, I decided to become a bit more serious on the page and a bit more focused and a bit more targeted with my posts. And that's when I started writing more about mental health issues. And then the autism came and I decided to work that in there. So it grew quite a bit the past few months. I really got an increase in followers, which is great because it means that it is reaching people. And it's called Chaos and Chocolates, and it's on Facebook. And yes, it's a very real page. I don't hide anything. I try to share as much as I can, or as my children allow me to, because I do ask my 10-year-old if he's okay with me putting this on my page, because the internet is around forever. So I don't want him to turn 17 years old one day and say, Mom, why did you write this about me? So I always ask him if he's okay. And he knows that if I share his story, he tells me maybe it will mean something for another child. And that's what I want to do with my page, is really having people feel, okay, this meant something to me. I know this can mean something to this person because they're battling with the same things, or that they can just relate and just say, I'm not alone. I have the same issue. My child also does this. That they can just feel a bit of a connect, because mental health illnesses can be a very lonely place to be, because you can feel like no one gets me, no one's with me on this. And that's important, to connect with someone or a page, whether it's a page, a person, where you can feel, I'm not alone. It's okay.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And that's very much true. Sometimes you tend to feel isolated. You tend to feel like, it's just you battling these things. Even as a mom and dealing with, we spoke about having the situation that you watch with a child having an outbreak in the mall. As a parent, sometimes you feel like it's just you battling these things, but putting it out there and letting persons know that this is my experience and this is how I deal with it, draws persons in and let persons know that they're not alone, that there's someone else also facing these challenges and overcoming them. So I want to thank you for sharing that. And if there's anything you would like to add, I would again extend room for you to share.
I think your talking points covered everything. So yes, I'm glad that we did this and that we are speaking about it. And I just really want to encourage people to accept more and be more aware. Like I said earlier as well, knowledge is power, and understanding something makes it easier to deal with as well.
Thank you so much. Now I'm not going to say your name again because I don't want to put your name, but can you say it for me, please?
Loiude.
Loiude, yes. So
there we go. Yes, perfect.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I want to thank all of those persons, those viewers, for commenting and listening in to our talk. I would like to thank our guest again, Loiude, and I would like to thank all of those persons. Like our page for future notifications of upcoming talks. Comment under our videos to let us know your thoughts and let us know what you want us to talk about. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Can We Talk? Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, using the addresses provided on our page. And remember, let's think, talk, do. Thank you so much.